My parents gave me a suitcase on my 30th birthday. They thought I'd walk away quietly, but my next move turned their world upside down. Subscribe so you don't miss what's next. My name is Marin. On the morning of my 30th birthday, my parents gave me a suitcase. Not a trip, not a surprise vacation, just a suitcase, fully packed, sitting by the front door. No hugs, no cake, no words, just my father standing with his arms crossed, and my mother fidgeting with the hem of her blouse. "We think it's time you learn to be independent," Marin said. I didn't scream, I didn't ask why, I just picked up the suitcase and left. They thought I would disappear. Nora, my best friend since college, let me crash on her couch that night. Her studio apartment was barely big enough for the both of us. But she didn't hesitate, she just handed me a mug of ginger tea and said, "You are not the crazy one here." I sat there in my birthday dress, gripping the cup, replaying the moment over and over. I'd been living with my parents for the past 5 years, not freeloading, helping grocery runs, late-night pharmacy visits, managing their taxes, coordinating my mother's post-surgery rehab, and even handling their mortgage payments for 6 months when Dad's business hit a rough patch. And now, suddenly, I was disposable. "Did they give you anything else?" Nora asked the next morning. We unzipped the suitcase together on her floor. Some clothes, a worn pair of sneakers, a sealed envelope. Inside was $120 in cash. That was it. No documents, no keys, no copies of the shared bank account I'd helped them set up years ago to manage their bills. Nora looked at me, dead serious. "That's not an eviction, that's an arrasur." Later that week, I got a letter from a law office. Marin vs. Marin allegation, financial misconduct and unauthorized use of shared funds. I stared at the words until the letters blurred. My hands went numb. He was suing me. Nora slammed the countertop. "They're not just cutting you out, they're rewriting the whole narrative." I sat down slowly, still holding the envelope. My mind drifted to the suitcase, and that's when I remembered when I was a kid. My grandfather used to leave handwritten notes in strange places, inside cereal boxes, behind photo frames, once even tucked into a Ziploc bag in the freezer. He called them breadcrumbs for the future. I tore through the suitcase again, this time feeling every corner of the lining. And there it was, a folded slip of paper, hidden beneath the stitched inner flat purple ink. His handwriting slanted familiar. "If they ever race you, go to the June box basement cabinet, left side." And my throat closed. "Tyler," I whispered out loud, "my cousin. The only other person Grandpa trusted. If anyone knew what the June box meant, it was him." Tyler didn't pick up when I called, but he texted back 3 minutes later. "You still remember the left side rule? Meet me behind Grandpa's house midnight." That was all I needed. Grandpa's house hadn't been sold yet. It was in probate limbo. Nobody wanted it, and my parents always called it a waste of upkeep. But I'd spent most of my childhood summers there, escaping the suffocating silence of my parents' affectionless home. Grandpa used to call me his favorite troublemaker. At 11:57 p.m., I slipped into my old hoodie and met Tyler by the backyard fence. He'd already cut the wire loop that my dad had installed after Grandpa died. "I haven't been back since they packed his stuff," I said, swallowing hard. Tyler nodded. "Neither have I." But I remember what he meant by the June box. The basement hadn't changed. Same concrete floor, same clanking furnace. The air smelled like mothballs in memory. We found the old metal cabinet under the stairs, beaten up, with one handle rusted. The left side drawer was jammed. Tyler yanked on it twice before it screeched open, sending a cloud of dust into the air. Inside, one locked metal box, no key, duct tape across the top, a single word scribbled in Grandpa's handwriting, and Tyler whistled. "This was meant for you." My hands trembled as I pulled it out. It was heavier than I expected. No key in sight. "What's inside?" Tyler asked. "I have no idea." We took it upstairs to the old kitchen counter and used a screwdriver from the shed to pry it open. Inside were 3 things: a yellowing envelope with my name written in looping script, a USB drive taped to a printout of a transaction log, a post-it note with a single sentence: "The first thing they took wasn't your money, it was your name." I opened the envelope. Inside was a copy of a bank account registration dated 5 years ago. The name on the account? Anne Louise Marin, listed as primary holder. But there was a signature below mine. "Collins, I remember this," I whispered. "Dad said he'd help me set up a business account for my tutoring service, but he told me I wasn't old enough to manage it alone." Tyler's jaw clenched. "That's illegal if you were the legal adult and the primary holder." I plugged the USB drive into Nora's laptop. Later that night, there were 3 files: a def statement showing $76,400 in deposits over 3 years, all tutoring income I'd funneled into that account; a log showing a complete withdrawal 2 weeks before my birthday; a signed authorization form for closure of the account, executed by Colin using power of attorney I never gave him. I sat in silence for a long time. Nora stared at the screen with me. "This is theft. They stole from you, they gaslit you, and now they're suing you." I nodded. "This is just level 1. If Grandpa left this for me, he must've known." She turned to me. "Then what's next?" I looked back at the suitcase, the one they handed me, like a coffin for my past. "Now we turn this eviction into evidence." I didn't go straight to my parents' house. Instead, I made an appointment. Colin always responded to formality. It gave him a sense of control. So I emailed him through the address he used for his construction business. Subject: regarding my account, I've come across documentation with your signature on a closed account. I'd prefer to discuss this in person before I file anything official. 10 minutes later he replied, fine. My office tomorrow. Einamabem. I forwarded the email to Nora and Tyler. Den stared at it for another hour. My stomach twisted, but not with fear, not anymore. I had evidence now. A breadcrumb trail. My grandfather had lit the match. I just needed to burn the lies. His office hadn't changed. Same polished desk. Same glass cabinet full of fake plaques. Same picture of me and Lazaro on his shelf from 10 years ago. City, he said. No hello, no eye contact. I stayed standing. I found the June box. His jaw tightened. Excuse me, the account you helped me open, the one you emptied and closed. I found the logs. The closure request. The forged signature. He leaned back in his chair, voice like steel. And, you don't understand what you're talking about. I think I do. He clicked his pen once. That account was under company review. You didn't report income properly. I was trying to protect you from tax fraud. That's when it hit me. He wasn't going to deny it. He was going to twist it. You committed bank fraud to save me from tax fraud? I asked, my voice level. You're not a financial expert, he said. You're emotional. Confused, and frankly, if you go public with this, I'll be forced to countersue. I opened my bag and pulled out the This contains everything. The logs, your authorization form, your IP login from the night the account was closed. He didn't flinch, but his lips went pale. And if you do that, he said calmly, I'll file a criminal complaint, with real consequences. You want the system involved? Let's go. When I left, my hands were shaking, not because I was scared of him, because I knew what he was about to do. By that afternoon, I got an email from the county clerk's office. My father had filed a petition for injunction and defamation damages, claiming I was publicly threatening and extorting him with falsified documents. I stared at the screen. I should have expected it. He always struck first. Nora sat next to me, trying to stay calm. He's forcing you into defense. He's buying time. You have to get ahead. I need a lawyer, I said. She nodded. I might know someone. Her name's Amina Rhodes. She helped a friend of mine get out of a guardianship case. Quiet but ruthless. I can't pay her. I already texted her. She said she'll meet with you for free. I swallowed. When? Tonight. Amina Rhodes didn't look like the kind of lawyer you see in court dramas. She wasn't flashy. No pencil skirt or power blazer, just jeans. A dark sweater, and a notepad already half filled when I arrived. She had the kind of presence that didn't need volume to command attention. She didn't smile much, but when she did, it was surgical. We met in the back of Nora's favorite cafe, where the clinking mugs masked our voices. Amina barely said hello before jumping in. Nora sent me the documents. I reviewed them. You're not crazy. That shouldn't have made me cry, but it did. She let me wipe my eyes in silence. Your father's signature is on the closure form, she continued, flipping a page. The problem is, he filed a legal guardianship addendum on that account 2 years ago. Did you know about that? I blinked. To what? Essentially, he filed a motion saying you were mentally unfit to manage financial accounts over a certain threshold, without ever declaring it to you. Since the account was registered jointly, the motion passed unchallenged. My mouth went dry. But that's impossible. I was working full-time, paying taxes. He used a loophole, she said, pushing the form toward me. He attached it to your mother's medical guardianship paperwork, claiming you were emotionally unstable during her surgery, citing paranoia, sleep issues, and inability to manage stress, then quietly added your financial guardianship on the same petition. The judge signed off, probably thinking it was one comprehensive filing. I stared at the paper. I recognized the handwriting in the complaint. It was Vera's. My mother had written that I was prone to exaggeration, anxiety, and dangerous emotional spirals. She said I was unstable. I whispered. She weaponized my panic attacks. Amina's voice was calm but firm. Yes. And that gave Cullen legal right to act as your guardian for all financial matters linked to that account, including closing it, transferring funds, removing your access. So I can't win. Oh no, she said. You can, because he didn't just close the account, he used it, transferred funds to private assets. That's beyond guardianship. That's exploitation. And the moment you turn 30, those rights expire unless renewed. I looked at her. I turned 30 yesterday. She smiled for the first time. Exactly. And he never renewed the guardianship, which means every move he made after midnight on your birthday was criminal. Nora gasped. That's why they kicked you out. They couldn't risk you seeing the paperwork shift. Amina nodded. You became a liability, and now you're a threat. That night, I sat alone with the documents spread out in front of me, the guardianship, the forged account closure, my own bank statements proving I'd earned that money. Every lie they'd used to paint me incompetent had been backed by quiet paperwork, quiet signatures, quiet traps. I looked back at the suitcase they handed me. Inside was a raw sewer, but buried underneath it all was proof, and now I had someone who believed me. 2 days later, Amina had a spreadsheet open across her laptop and a red marker tapping steadily against her coffee cup. These accounts all tie back to a holding company called Lev Holdings, she said. Guess who registered it? Cullen, close Vera, my mother. Lev Holdings was a shell. a limited liability corporation, listed under a PO box, and registered to Verity Caldwell, a pseudonym my mother once used for her Etsy store back in the early 2010s. She'd stopped using it after a customer accused her of reselling clearance items at triple the price. She's always loved plausible deniability, I muttered. Amina turned the laptop toward me. They've used this LX to purchase 2 properties over the past 18 months. One of them is an office space in a strip mall. The other is a rental condo downtown. My heart dropped. That's my name on the original lease, I whispered. That's the one I saved for. I used my tutoring income to build the down payment for it. I was supposed to buy it out at the end of last year. Amina nodded. They used the funds from the tutoring account to finalize the purchase through Leave. Then they had the condo transferred into trust under Cullen's name. They'd rerouted everything, not just my money, my future. I couldn't breathe. You okay? Amina asked, gently this time. I nodded a yeah. Just this is worse than I imagined. They didn't just steal from you. Nora added from across the room. They erased you and made it look like you never existed in the process. Amina leaned forward. This is good, really good. I blinked. How is this good? Because it's traceable. Paper trail, chain of custody, transaction logs. We're not fighting whispers anymore, and we're fighting receipts, and they're sloppy. They left fingerprints all over this. She turned to her second screen. There's one more thing, she added. I requested the notary records tied to the trust transfer on the condo. It looks like Vera signed for you. I stood up. That's forgery exactly, Amina said. We just need one more confirming document. The original trust paperwork from the law firm that processed it. Once we get that, it's enough to file civil and criminal suits. But we had a problem. The firm that handled the trust was Doyle Kelman Lepta Boutique Estate Office. Cullen had done contract work for them years ago during a remodel. He knew people there. He could buried it, I said. Or he paid someone to do it for him. Amina replied, but it doesn't matter. Every firm has backups, and every trust has to be listed with the state under registration timestamp. If we can't get it from them, we'll go through the archive filings. She tapped her notepad once. Your job now, go back to that condo. Get inside, look for any paperwork they left behind, especially from the months after your lease ended. I hesitated. You think they left a trail? Amina smiled. People like your father always do, because they believe no one will ever question them. I hadn't been back to the condo in 8 months. It was supposed to be mine. I'd picked the tile, the fixtures, even the color of the front door. But after Vera offered to hold the paperwork while I focused on helping Mom recover from surgery, they'd slowly shifted everything out of my hands, and now I needed to break back into what was once my home. Tyler still had the backup key. We met outside the downtown unit at 6:30 p.m. The hallway was quiet. The building was mostly professionals, and I knew the unit had been vacant for renovations since January. Cullen's way of hiding that they were sitting on a stolen asset. You sure about this? Tyler asked. I have to be. We slipped in. The place smelled like dust and lemon cleaner, like they'd tried to erase any signs of life. Most of the furniture was gone, but the bookshelf I'd installed in the utility closet was still there. I pulled it open, and behind it, a second panel I had added to cover the vault access. I remembered that space, a shallow crevice, just wide enough to fit a banker's box. When I'd moved out, I'd left it empty. Ow, it wasn't. I reached in and pulled the box out. It was heavy. Inside a manila folder labeled Trust Transfer of 123 Maple, a stack of tax prep documents signed Verity Caldwell, and a crumpled piece of mail addressed to me forwarded from my old name. Bingo, Tyler whispered. This proves they used my identity after cutting me out. I said, heart racing. They forwarded my mail here, filed taxes in my name, and then buried it. Then we heard it. Keys jingling, door unlocking. Tyler's eyes widened. SHT closet, I whispered. We shoved the box back inside and squeezed in behind the shelf. My heart was in my throat. I could hear footsteps, slow, deliberate. Vera, her voice floated through the condo like a ghost. Cullen, you didn't tell me you were sending someone in to check the vault again. No reply. She was talking to herself. She walked into the closet just for a moment and ran her fingers along the top shelf. And then, the words that made my blood freeze, if she ever finds this box, we burn everything. Tyler squeezed my hand hard. I could feel my pulse pounding against my skin. She didn't notice us. She just made a note on her phone and walked out. We waited 5 minutes before moving. When we got back to Nora's place, Amina was already there. I placed the box on the table. She didn't say anything for a while. Then this is it. This is your second-tier evidence. The trust documents had notary seals. The tax forms had timestamps. The mail had forwarding receipts, with Cullen's handwriting signing for delivery. This can't be faked, Amina said, and more importantly, it can't be denied. I didn't plan on seeing Vera again, but Amina said it was necessary. If we file before giving them a chance to respond, they'll claim ambush. We're stronger if we show we tried to resolve it, and they doubled down. I hated it, but she was right. So I called Vera. She picked up on the second ring, as if she's been waiting, and she said, soft and brittle, I hoped you'd call. I want to talk, I said. Face to face. She hesitated. Cullen's out of town. Maybe that's for the best. Come tomorrow noon? The house looked the same garden she never actually tended, same porch swing no one sat in, same feeling that I didn't belong there. Vera made tea like she always did when she wanted to seem nurturing. She set the china down and sat across from me like we were actresses in a play. I didn't touch the cup. You don't have to pretend anymore, I said. She flinched. You knew what Cullen was doing, I continued. You filed the guardianship addendum, you signed my name on trust documents, you forwarded my mail to hide the paper trail, and you called me unstable in writing. Tears welled in her eyes. I was trying to protect the family. No, I said, you were protecting your image. You didn't want the family to look broken. You wanted me invisible. She didn't deny it. Instead, she pulled something from her bag, a small jewelry box. I kept this for you. I was waiting for the right time. Inside was the locket Grandpa had given me when I turned 18, the one I thought I'd lost in the move. She's taken it, just like she took the lease, the account, the mailbox. I picked it up, then set it back down. You don't get to give things back and call it love. Back at Amina's office, we finalized the filing. Civil suit, identity theft, financial exploitation, real estate fraud, criminal complaint forgery, document falsification, misuse of guardianship authority. We sent everything, copies of the trust, tax records, bank logs, notary seals, to the state attorney's office and filed for a protective injunction against retaliation. Then we emailed Harvard Law Review because the best disinfectant was daylight. 1 week later, I got a voicemail from Cullen. You think this will end well for you? You don't understand how many people I know. This is bigger than some condo, Han. You've embarrassed us, and now you'll pay for that. I forwarded it to Amina. She forwarded it to the judge. 2 days after that, an officer hand-delivered a court summons. But not for me, for Cullen and Vera Marin. They tried to settle. Amina said no. They tried to spin it on Facebook. Nora posted the filing receipts. They tried to call me dozens of times. I didn't answer. When the court hearing came, I didn't dress to look impressive. I wore the same outfit I had on the day they gave me the suitcase, because I wanted them to see I didn't need to become someone else to fight them. The judge ruled in my favor. Cullen's guardianship claim was declared fraudulent. The condo was returned to me. Damages were awarded, and all their fabricated filings shredded in the face of hard evidence. I walked out of court that day and called Tyler. They lost. He didn't say anything for a second. Then you won, and you actually won. Back at Nora's, I opened the old suitcase they'd given me on my birthday. It still smelled like lemon soap and betrayal. I placed inside it a copy of the court ruling, my new condo deed, and a photo of Grandpa and me on his porch swing, where I finally felt like I belonged. Then I closed it for good. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe to check out more stories on my channel.